Rachel, what is the purpose of life then?
Yeah.
Well, actually, Aristotle thought that the purpose of life was to find happiness and to live a happy life. And I'd say I kind of agree. I kind of like that.
Wrong. It's 42.
Oh, I like that I get that reference. I don't feel dumb for once. What is quite interesting is, and I kind of want your take on this, apparently Aristotle thought that happiness was the ultimate value of your life as lived up to this moment. So it's measuring how well you've lived up to your full potential as a human being. It's the final goal of life. However, he also argued that you couldn't really know if you've lived a happy life until after it was over or not. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
How can
presumably
you know anything once it's over?
he must have the assumption that the consciousness goes on. I think he did as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So
like,
that's when you can
So the argument that kind of like a lot of people kind of bring into this is that you can't say whether a football match was good or not until the match is finished. It's kind of like you can't say you've lived a happy life until it's over.
Yeah.
It's like a movie that's amazing, and then the ending is just like bleh.
Yeah.
Or like some of those movies that like it's absolutely horrible, but then the ending is just blows your mind and makes the whole thing worth it.
And for me, I still don't buy that reasoning, because let's just say the game is crap. So, it's just a bad game. Everyone got injured. All the replacements happened. Whatever sport we're talking about. You can get towards 90% of it being done, and someone can say, hey, you need to listen to the next 10%, watch the next 10% in order to be able to say that it was a bad game. No, you don't.
Yeah.
You really don't at that point. It's a bit like when someone says the Bible is flawless, and you find a flaw, and then if they was to come back and say, no, you need to read the whole Bible. No, I don't. I found a premise that's wrong. Game over.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's sports matches where like in the last like 2 minutes there's this massive upset, and it's like the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but can it outweigh 90% of people basically not playing the game right and punching each other?
I will say that should be incentive for people who are towards the end of their life to, if they're evaluating it, saying, you know what, my life has been crap so far, to suddenly like give it that last surge and make that last little bit amazing.
Or if you take my philosophy, it's terrible. Just get it over with.
Because it's like that's almost like it's a sunk cost. It's like the last 90%. People oftentimes they'll do this. They'll, in terms of like religious thinking, they'll say, well, I'm not gonna leave my faith because then I would have just wasted the last 90% of my life. Well, it's like, well, are you gonna waste the next 10%? Like that last 90% is already done. Now you have an opportunity for the next however many years you have left. That's all you have right now. Like the rest of it is gone. It's sunk. Don't think in terms of what you've done for the last bit of your life. Think in terms of like, what can you do for the next bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of want to scream this to my parents too, because they both smoked since they were 15, and they're in their like late 50s now. And my entire life, my mum's been like, oh, it's too late for me now to stop. Like, I've been smoking long enough, the damage is done. And I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, damage is done, but you can stop at any time. And like, why wouldn't you? If she'd stopped 10 years ago when I first brought this point up, she would have had 10 healthier years than she's had now. And I just feel like this idea of like, oh, it's too late now, is just a cop-out, and it's just lazy, and it's just out of fear or laziness or whatever. And I think people need to man up a bit.
Was it Bill Hicks that when confronted about smoking, someone said like, it'll take 10 years off your life, and he's like, well, those are the bad years anyways. But it's kind of funny on the like when just at face value, but then you start to think about it and you're like, no, it actually just brings those bad years closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're shaving off 10 good years and then bringing the shit years in sooner.
And it's not even that. This is all just assuming, of course, that you're going to get got by it. It could be that if your mum stopped now, she may get another 6 or 7 years because she dies from ischemic heart disease rather than lung cancer, which is seriously more painful and hard for everybody to see. And those 7 years could mean that she's there for her grandchildren. That she can have an influence and be remembered and to really make a big difference in their lives. But instead,
or not just that. In in the last episode we talked about, can we put an end to aging? And even if we don't live forever, what if she's able to live 10 years longer by quitting smoking now?
Yeah.
And that then in that 10 year, maybe 9 years from now, there's some massive breakthrough in organ transplants and she's able to get 2 new clean lungs.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's,
It might even be in vitro, so it's just they take their DNA and build it in a lab.
Mhm.
You know, this isn't beyond possible.
Yeah.
Um,
See,
and
I hope this is an
as-
episode you're listening to, Mom.
Yeah, to basically just put a full stop on what you were saying there, Thomas, is that we were discussing the best way to stop a disease is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And so we know that smoking's bad for you if you can't stop it. For Rachel's sake and Rachel's children in the future, or Kyra.